The Genuinely Jenny podcast is a place for conversation, curiosity, and perspective, not professional advice. It's for educational and entertainment purposes only. My opinions are my own, based on my lived experiences and ever-evolving beliefs. The views expressed by my guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect my views. I'm not a doctor, and certainly not your doctor, nor am I acting as a therapist, attorney, or financial advisor. Please use your own judgment and seek guidance from qualified professionals when making decisions about your health, relationships, finances, or other important areas of your life. Now let's get started. Hey guys, it's your friend Jenny here. You might know me from social media as the girl who lost a whole bunch of weight, and now I share tips and tricks and ideas and motivation and all of those things related to weight loss and hormones and perimenopause and all of those things. But while my weight loss is a very important part of my life and I do love to talk about it, it's not the most important thing about it. And over the last few years, I've realized that a lot of the lessons I learned during my weight loss journey have actually helped me transform my life into a life that actually feels like my own. And it's all of those things that I felt like really needed their own place to live. And that's why I created this podcast. Of course, we're still going to talk about weight loss because that is a piece of my journey. And I also think that for decades, centuries maybe, weight and obesity and health and wellness have always been important. But I feel like lately they've been making kind of a shift. So we're going to talk about those things, of course. But the main thing we're going to talk about is relationships with partners, parenting, friendships, professional relationships with our faith, and really relationships with ourselves. And within all of that, there are these topics that kind of reoccur, like setting boundaries and honesty, discomfort, being comfortable with discomfort, accountability. I know that is a word that is tossed around a lot, just like the word authenticity. I think that word is used all of the time now, but I almost wonder if we're all kind of using it incorrectly, or the majority of people are using it incorrectly. So we're going to talk about what it really means to be authentic. And I think you might be surprised at some of the things I have to say about that. Something I learned as I lost all of my weight is that I spent the majority of my life living in a body that kept me from being who I always wanted to be. This might sound crazy, but when I was a kid, I felt always very certain that I was meant for great things. Like I had a lot of things to offer the world. Unfortunately, the body that I lived in and some ideas that I grew up with about how I was supposed to show up in the world kind of kept me from reaching that full potential. And now that I've stripped that weight and I've also stripped those expectations that other people have had of me, I'm free to just be the person I want to be. I spent a lot of my life trying to fit into molds that didn't actually fit me. I was always trying to mimic other people's success or look at how other people did things or how other people thought and try to turn that into my own. But that's really an uncomfortable place for me to be. And, just like everything, like I don't want to sound cheesy, like my childhood led me to all of this, but that is true for all of us. The way we were raised and the way we were kind of told to show up in the world is what forms us as adults. And part of how I was formed is to fit into this mold, and somehow in breaking out of that, I became someone who really hates being told what to think and how to feel. I am not comfortable living inauthentically. And it's not like it's a rebellious thing, like, don't you tell me what to do or whatever. It really is about, I want to take information that I'm given and I want to make decisions on my own. I want to have the freedom and the permission to think what I want to think and feel what I want to feel, regardless of what the world is telling me I should think and I should feel. I just feel like when you give yourself permission to really decide what you value in life and you give yourself permission to make decisions and to have thoughts and beliefs that are in line with those values, that's the point where you really get to live your best life. Another goal for this podcast comes from another one of my core beliefs, which is that a lot of discomfort and maybe even suffering could be avoided if we would explicitly say the things that we're thinking. And I do sometimes get myself in trouble with this, with just blurting out things without really thinking about it. Just, this is what I feel and this is what I'm going to say. But I do think that there is some benefit in that. And what I mean by explicitly saying the things is I think that we tend to make a lot of assumptions that other people think and feel the way we do. And I don't mean that they just like agree with us, like they feel the same way about an issue that we feel. I mean that they feel their feelings the same way that we feel our feelings, and they think their thoughts the way that we think our thoughts. I think that there are assumptions made even in a marriage or in a relationship. We make assumptions about how our partner wants to be loved or how they want to be treated. I think we make assumptions that our kids are going to just fall in line and do the things we want them to do because a rule is a rule. But I think if we explicitly talk to our kids about why rules are what they are, we're so much more likely to get them to want to follow the rules on their own. When we go into conversations with these assumptions, it can cause a lot of problem. It can cause disconnects. It can cause space between people. And I think more than that, it causes loneliness, because if I'm making assumptions about how you feel and you're making assumptions about how I feel, and neither of us really understand how the other one is feeling, that's a really lonely place to be. I think that we all want to feel understood, but if we don't actually say out loud the things that we need, how is anyone ever going to understand us? And it's kind of funny because in the last few years that I have been more explicit, sometimes you get looks from people like, what are you talking about? We're not supposed to talk about that. You know, even if you talk about politics, like we may talk about politics here, and it's not to get into fights or anything. It's just to have a space where we can really talk to each other and really understand each other. But here I go, rambling already. I've had moments where I've tried to talk to people about political things that seem like they would be taboo. But you can almost see where there's a disconnect between, like, when I hear this statement, this political statement, and you hear this political statement, we both are assuming that we're seeing it the same way, and the answer should be obvious. But we're each coming to it with our own lens and our own set of experiences from our own lives that lead us to hear that information in our own way. When we can talk to each other about these things, we can connect those two things together, and hopefully we can come to at least an understanding of each other. We don't always have to agree on things, but I think that explicitly saying things is one way to help us get closer. Another thing is that I've always felt like there must be some sort of life manual out there that everybody got other than me. Like, as a kid, I always felt like I don't even know what are like the cool things I'm supposed to be wanting. Or like in college, and when my friends were out doing things and like would go to like a new place, I'm like, how do you even know where those places are? How do you know that you're supposed to want to go to those places? And this was like before the internet, so it's not like people were saying it there. Like, how do you guys know these things? And then get into marriage and even like planning my wedding and raising babies. I would always hear people saying like, well, I do this. Well, I have this new coolest thing. And I'm like, how do you even know about it? So it always left me feeling like I was just a step behind. On the other hand, in the last few years that I have been sharing more about my life, there have been conversations that I've had with people where they're like, oh, that was a really good idea. I would have never thought of doing that. Whoa, that seemed really obvious to me, but it wasn't to you. And I'm so glad that now you know it. Or I've had people come up and be like, you mentioned that you do this with your husband, and now we've been doing it and our marriage is doing so great. And it's like a little tiny thing that I mentioned. And I'm like, well, I'm glad that was able to help. But imagine if I share all of my things that I'm doing and you're sharing all of your things that you're doing, then maybe we can all find things in each other and in each other's relationships that could be beneficial to our own. And I'm definitely not saying that all the things that I do in my life you should do. For one thing, my life is also a hot mess. I do not have it all together, but I will say that I have a very happy life. I have a happy family. We're not perfect. We have issues, we have struggles, we have sadness, and we have hard days. But in general, we have a pretty happy family. And I want to share the things that we do. And that doesn't mean that you should fit yourself into that mold and try to make yourself like, I need to do these things because Jeni and her husband do these things and they have a really great marriage. That's not it at all. But what I like to do is help people see, like, I do this, your life looks more like this, so maybe this one thing would look like this for you. Clear as mud? You'll understand, I'm sure. This is not going to be a podcast where I'm trying to convince you to think like I think. This is a place where I want us to be curious. I would love for you to challenge me, and I would love for you to ask me questions and share your own experiences with me. I'm going to be sharing some things that maybe sound a little bit radical, and maybe they're only radical because we don't talk about them. Things about parenting, faith, intimacy, obesity, mental health, trauma, boundaries, friendships, habits, having difficult conversations, identity and purpose, and all of those uncomfortable conversations that no one is really having out loud. So if you're here, I hope that you have come with curiosity. I hope that you have come with the intent to listen, to understand, instead of listening only to decide whether or not you agree with me or to decide how you would respond to the things that I'm saying. Try to really listen, and let's have good, open conversations. I hope that you will hear things that allow you to reflect on your own life and reflect on your own beliefs, and know that you have permission. I don't have to give you permission, but if you need it, I'm giving it to you. You have permission to change your mind and to make mistakes as you learn new information or as you learn other people's perspectives. And I give myself that permission too. I give myself the permission to make mistakes. I give myself permission to change my mind or feel a different way now than I felt before. Or maybe I feel the way now and 2 years from now I change my mind because I have new information. We're all allowed to do those things, and that's really just part of what makes us human. Ultimately, the goal is to share perspectives so that we can all learn a little bit more about each other and maybe even learn about ourselves. Thanks for spending this time with me. I hope that we're going to have some great conversations. No, I know that we are going to have some great conversations and we're all going to learn a lot. Here we go.